Yeah, yeah.
Hey everybody, hope Easter's going well for everybody. I was going to do some stuff about the Sunday shows and Van Hollen, but I see that kind of everybody's already doing that, and I wanted to see something. I saw something on come through on the Bulwark, and kind of triggered a memory of mine from about 2021, when kind of Biden's administration was kind of cruising at that point until the Afghan withdrawal, and then it was sort of things kind of hit the skids then. And I remember a lot of veterans and special forces guys came on, did tons of media hits how the Biden administration was faithless and hated the military and was leaving our Afghan partners for the Taliban to die. And there was just a whole bunch of stuff there, and it was all over the media. These guys did tons of media, talking about just how disgraceful. I know they went on. I'm assuming a bunch of them went on Joe Rogan's show. They were all over the place on right wing podcasting. So I kind of wonder, where are those guys at now? Because I saw this video from the Bulwark, and like I said, it triggered this memory. And I'll just play a little bit of the video from Tim Miller, the Bulwark.
Be here with my friend Will Selber, former colleague of mine. He's now working with a bunch of Afghan nonprofits, Afghan American Veterans Alliance, Global Friends of Afghanistan, and Next Mission, which is focused on Afghan female soldiers. We'll put the links to these in the show notes if you want to support them. It's good to see you, brother, even though the topic is pretty bleak.
Yes, it is. But I'm delighted to be here, and thank you for providing me a platform to talk about this.
Yeah, happy to do it. Will did 4 tours in Afghanistan, but who's counting? So met a lot of folks over there. Yes. And I started seeing these stories come across my radar this week, and I'm trying to unpack like what is true about them. It's one of these things where it's in a non-Trump world, it's like too horrific to be like imaginable. Like, it's like maybe this is the new, they don't have exactly the story right, but in Trump world, it seems to be the case, which is a bunch of Afghan refugees who came the proper way, went to a third country, demonstrated credible fear. There's a particular focus on Afghan Christians who have an obvious fear of religious persecution now that the Taliban is running Afghanistan. And many of these people have received emails this week from the government saying basically you have 7 days to leave. So that's what I've read. I'm sure you're more familiar than me. So get us up to speed on what's happening.
Sure. About a week ago or so, Trump removed the temporary protective status on our Afghan allies who served beside American forces and other forces through 20 years of war. That basically left them vulnerable, if you will. And, now we're starting to get reports, and I've heard it from multiple people, that there are already Afghan refugees who have been detained, and also that there were Afghan security force officers who has been detained. There's some video on it on Facebook about a certain Afghan soldier being detained. So there is video proof already that's starting to come out of our Afghan allies who there's about 120,000, give or take, that left Kabul when it fell. And then there's been a lot more that have come since then. So all of them who made it here could potentially be deported back to Afghanistan, where they will certainly be murdered. I mean, just 100%. They will be executed by the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. The Al-Qaeda and the Taliban may not do it immediately because that's not how they kill people. They basically do targets of opportunity. So it's not going to be a systemic campaign. But any Afghan who gets sent back, who is a vetted Afghan and who's a trusted Afghan, and many of the men and women that I served with trained in the United States previously and have already gone through like 6 or 7 rounds of vetting before 2001. You send any of them back, they're going to kill them. Period.
The processing, I guess, if you've been speaking to people that are like dealing with this, they're in flux right now. I mean, I guess the question is, the government.
All right, I hadn't seen this video a little bit, so obviously, I know from 2021 that a lot of these advocates for the Afghan refugees obviously have many, many media contacts. I mean, I know Fox News was all over it. So where is it now? Why isn't this being broadcast? Why isn't this being blown up in conservative media, podcasters that had these guys on that were saying how disgraceful the Biden administration was, and Trump himself in his rallies was talking about how awful it was. We're leaving our Afghan partners there, and now he's going to deport them to be murdered. I mean, what? Marco Rubio especially was going on Fox News all the time, talking how awful it was for the Biden administration to be leaving our allies there to be murdered by the Taliban. And now this feckless fuck is sending them back to be murdered.
Government would say, well, they're going to give them time to go to another country. Are other countries taking Afghans? Like, I
haven't heard anything yet that they are. I'm sure that there will be some that step up to the plate and provide sanctuary for them. I would just say, imagine how this must feel for my Afghan combat veteran friends who spent the last 3.5 years getting Afghan allies out. They've sunk their money into it, their personal money into it. Relationships have been ruined, marriages, families split apart because a bunch of Afghan combat veterans decided to uphold the promise that we made to our allies. And now, if this really starts up, if you think the veteran suicide rate was bad, it's going to spike because you saw a spike. You saw a spike during the fall of Kabul. If we're going to start hunting our very own allies and you're going to make Afghan combat veterans try to protect them, and there's going to be guys who shepherd them along. Imagine how that must feel for them. They've not only been betrayed, in my opinion, by their country when the fall, but also now, again, as they grab the very people that they sunk their money into, who protected them on the battlefield, to pull them all the way back. It's going to be devastating, not just for combat veterans, but also for their families. And as you can see, the Trump administration has been gutting the VA. So good luck trying to find some help.
Yeah, I mean, it is just so tragic, and it's been kind of tragedy upon tragedy for you guys, our veterans who served over there. Just kind of like also just seeing.
I mean, I'm a former Republican, kind of like Tim Miller, never Trumper, that kind of thing, I guess. The hypocrisy is weapons grade, and that's the one thing I've never been able to stand is hypocrisy. Here's Marco Rubio, professed Christian. I remember at a time, like every day it was a new Bible verse on his Twitter feed, how pious he was. Anybody in chat, I know that's why one of the lower, in Dante's Inferno, one of the lower circles of hell is reserved for hypocrites like Marco Rubio. I think it's 7th or 8th. Someone in chat, go ahead. A reminder, please like and subscribe. I am trying to hit things that, big podcasters like Mockler and, Midas, whatnot. I happen to really like Mockler and Midas. So I try to hit things they may not get to. But obviously the Bulwark has, and I remember kind of seeing this a little bit earlier, later in the week, but busy at work. And let's see what else.
The work, get the rug pulled out from under you on the work that was done. But talking about the Afghans themselves, and I think since you deal with a lot of these families, you could kind of give people some perspective. A lot of folks who were in Afghanistan, who maybe helped us, who are translators, or even if they didn't, even if they just are Christians that are looking for a safe harbor here in America, they've come here, they've started lives, they're in churches, they have jobs, they're in a community, they have kids too, they have families, and they uprooted their whole life, came here, and now it's like, what? And now we're just saying, hey, here's a letter from the government. You have 7 days to, go back to certain death or become a fugitive in a new land.
Yes. For these Afghan families, so
it's not just that what they do is so evil. And it truly is evil. It's also that they're so weird. I mean, if you could concoct a story, I mean, like Lex Luthor was more cool and with it than any of these douches. I mean, these guys are Keystone Cops level bad. They're evil and incompetent and cringeworthy about it. Like they make no bones about it. I mean, look at the Oval Office. It's gold spray painted foam all over the place, like some Eastern European dictator's palace. I won't mention which one, but I think we all know it's Putin. So, I mean, the president is taking interior decorating tips from, a Russian dictator. Oval Office, talking to El Salvadoran dictator that gets welcomed with open arms when Democratic leaders are, yelled at and demeaned and everything else. We have Stephen Miller and Marco Rubio sitting there and JD Vance and Pam Bondi, all looking like, world's worst elementary school field trip. They're trying to melt into the couch while nodding like puppets whenever Stephen Miller talks. So who's really running the government? Is it Stephen Miller? Is it Navarro? It's not Trump. I mean, all he wants to do is play golf and stay out of jail. That's why he ran to begin with.
Some of them, imagine one day you just pick up your bags and somebody goes, the only way for you not to die or to live under a gender apartheid regime, because the Taliban and Al-Qaeda are publicly executing people. There are mass sexual assaults going on in prison. Now imagine this is your only.
My wife actually said that during 2021, like, rather than give the Afghan National Army, which folded with barely a fight, all the weapons, they should have given it to all the women. Like, our entire time there, we should have been training the women how to fight. And they would have taken care of the Taliban for us. I don't think she's wrong.
Only chance, and you have to pick up everything you own, get on a plane, and fly all the way here in a country that is completely different, and that maybe one or two of your family members know how to speak fluent English. That was the case for about 100,000 Afghans or so less that got into the United States. And overwhelming numbers are thriving. I have a friend who's a pilot. He's a pilot, and he lost all of his credentials during the fall. He had to redo everything, and he's flying right now as we speak. He is providing service for this country. I have an Afghan interpreter, my very first one. He's an American citizen, and I'm even scared for him. This is a man without any legs who survived an IED explosion, and he is a security guard because he wants to protect Americans. I could go on and on about the Afghans that I know, men and women who. There's that first Afghan female squadron commander who was in charge of other Afghan male pilots. She's here. Other females, tactical platoon members are here. These men and women are doing their best. Many of them are thriving. And I tell you what, all they want, I talk to so many of them, they want this. They want to stay here. They were going to follow the laws. They want to thrive. And as soon as the Taliban and Al-Qaeda aren't in charge of Afghanistan, I guarantee you every single one of them will want to go home because they love it here, but this isn't their home. But they don't want to go back now because as we speak, the Taliban has been killing, our Afghan allies for the last three years. Why would they be any different?
Yeah, I mean, the letter that they got, I just want to read a little bit from it. If you do not depart from the United States immediately, you'll be subject to potential law enforcement actions that will result in your removal from the United States unless you have otherwise obtained a lawful basis to remain here. You'll be subject to potential criminal prosecution, civil fines, penalties, and other lawful options available to the federal government. So, for your friend that has got...
I mean, think on that. They helped us over there. We bring them back. We bring them over here in fraught circumstances because the withdrawal from Afghanistan was by no means smooth. We can debate how that happened. Trump releasing 5,000 or 10,000 Taliban fighters right into Afghanistan without the Afghan government really being involved. Signing a deal that we would withdraw on a certain date. That was all Trump. Biden could have pushed it back, but Biden was in favor of withdrawal anyway. So we can argue over how it occurred and the mistakes made. But at the end of the day, these people are here. They're living productive lives, like so many other immigrants and illegal aliens. And we're just going to snatch them up off the street, put them in unmarked vans, and put them on a plane over to Afghanistan. For what reason? For what purpose? None of this makes sense. There's no like Van Hollen saying, there's no due process. We're doing this totally extrajudicially. And you have right-wing figures that are championing it on, dissolve Jesse Kelly, dissolve the Supreme Court if they won't go along with what Trump wants. Really? That guy's a veteran, supposedly special forces, and he's advocating for the overthrow of the Supreme Court. What about your oath to protect the Constitution, to defend it from all enemies, foreign and domestic? You oath breaker.
Citizenship, right? I mean, this does not apply to all 100,000, but this is a huge portion of them that do not have other lawful bases to remain here if they don't have the temporary protective status. That's the gist.
Yes, that is the gist. I mean, for the Afghan American citizens, it's going to be their family members, though. I mean, because many of them were able to get members of their families out, so it is going to affect them too.
Good point.
And it's going to affect any Afghan that's in the United States. Even if they're able to stay here, they're going to see their friends and family some of them get deported. And we've already turned off the pipeline. Like, there's not going to be any other Afghans getting in, as far as I know. Trump has already turned that off. Yeah. So what is the
very thing he hammered Biden on for so many years on Fox News occasionally and everything else, the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, leaving our partners there. Trump shut that off. Just to be clear.
Point here, exactly.
And it seems like it's the focus on the people that, and so you can maybe explain this because you were helping folks get out,
yes,
and just doing really great work. But there was, I guess there were, after that first rush, right? Then there's this next batch of people that come in, and they went through kind of the old process, right? They would go to a third country. Then they got that there's the CBP-1 app. And this way it's similar to the story with the Venezuelans, just with even more trauma. But, where they did it, they got in the app. And it seems to me, just based on the couple of stories I've read and Christian Post and elsewhere, that it was those Afghans that have been targeted first, like the ones that use the CBP-1 app, because I guess, the government has it on file. They're easy to find. So
they're easy to find.
They're lazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. Now, Afghans who have followed the law and provided information, they're going to maybe be the first ones that are contacted by the American federal government. And after that, I don't know what's going to happen next, because I think that.
So not only are they evil, not only are they incompetent, but they're also lazy.
A lot of them are going to be vulnerable. Some of them got here after the fall of Afghanistan. They went through an SIVs, special immigrant visa process. That was for people that worked for at least a year for the American federal government in various capacities. Some of them got in as on refugee status or asylum or parole through the last 3.5 years. And many of them sat in bases in the Middle East for over a year.
Now, I know it was a while ago, but as I recall, and help me out in the comments if I'm wrong, because I certainly could be, I understand that this lengthy process was put in place because it was sort of a Hobbesian choice. I think I'm using that term correctly. But not only did the Republicans hammer Biden on not getting our Afghan allies out, but they also didn't want them to be immediately brought in. They had to go through a lengthy vetting process. So it was two things. They didn't want them here, but they also wanted Biden to get them out. If I'm wrong, I very well could be, but that's how I remember it. I know 2021 was a long time ago, but that's how I remember it.
Getting vetted, and then they finally make it. So all of these men and women have been thoroughly vetted multiple times. So,
yeah. Well, it's quite the Easter weekend gift from the American government. Secretary of State Marco Rubio tweeted yesterday, Easter celebrates the resurrection of Jesus Christ. This Holy Week in Easter, I call upon all nations to
this asshole
respect the right of Christians to declare Christ the King. So while he's calling on other nations to respect the right of Christians, he's fucking sending Christian refugees back to their death. What a sick person. It's just truly unbelievable that like the shamelessness of the administration on this front.
Yeah, there are members inside the administration who served in Afghanistan. I mean, the National Security Advisor served in Afghanistan and wrote a book about it. Doorstep to, I don't remember what it was called, but he talked quite passionately about the Afghans. And I would love to see maybe Michael Waltz say something about that because he served. He knows how valuable they were. And if any of the limited success that we had, lives were saved because my life was saved because of Afghans numerous times. They've earned their place among us.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your service, all the work you're doing. Once again, we'll put the links here if people want to support these efforts. The Afghan American Veterans Alliance, Global Friends of Afghanistan. That's my buddy, Will Selber. And sadly, I think this stuff's going to stay in the news. So we'll be talking to you again.
All right. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, brother. Have a good one. We'll see you soon. Hey, YouTube fam, if you want to support the Bulwark, the best way to do it is by becoming a YouTube Bulwark, and you can get I guess some people want. So come join.
Okay, I was hoping he was going to put the links up, and I was going to leave it up there. So that was that. It kind of derailed. I saw that, and it kind of derailed my plans for, Fox News videos and stuff like, Sunday show videos, because there's just a lot going on. Rule of law is being dismantled faster than people can respond. And, I somewhat wonder, a little bit of a preview of another thing I'm working on here with this. Let me share my screen here. Is it? Yep. So there's also this, and this kind of leads into something else of, I kind of mentioned who's really running the White House, because on that couch right there, you have the Vice President, the Secretary of State, and the Attorney General. Now, I was watching this a little bit, but I'm going to rewind it, and let's all take a look at who does most of the talking.
I have the best relationship with him. We've known each other. I've known him since he was a very young man, as I said, very, very young. And I was impressed. I said, look at this guy is.
By the way, Drag Queen Story Hour, that's basically where we're looking at right now. That's more makeup than any drag queen I've ever seen.
In fact, you sort of look like a teenager. You look like a teenager. I said, what kind of a country is this? He grew up well in the last 5 years.
And why does that table behind him look like it came from the Kremlin? Does anybody know? I don't think that's anything that came from the Smithsonian or anything else like they usually do. So, he's literally, it looks like it belongs in the Kremlin.
Extension for nationals of El Salvador under.
I support him.
Do you plan to ask?
Go ahead. Let's hear the question from this very low-rated anchor at CNN.
Do you plan to ask President
Low-rated.
Pilate to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly
Which one is that?
deported? The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13.
A lie.
And he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was a paperwork. It was
His wife is a U.S. citizen.
additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So will you return him, President?
Look at those three idiots just nodding along like that's what actually happened. I mean, I believe Rubio has a Harvard frickin' law degree. He certainly knows that. JD Vance does. She went to, I want to say, Texas Christian University, got her law degree. What? They know they're lying. They know they're full of it. They know that's not what the Supreme Court said. And here they are lying willingly, without shame.
You are doing a great job. Thank you.
Just again,
Stephen Miller, wait a minute. Could you just also respond to that question? Because, it's asked by CNN and they always ask it with a slant because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also?
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned,
So here you have a legal question. The president asked the Attorney General of the United States, the top legal officer of the United States government, then asked Stephen Miller to expand on that and don't really pay attention to Dime Store Voldemort. Instead, look at the three on the couch and just how cowed they are. They're literally terrified of this man. You have the vice president, the secretary of state, and the attorney general, and they're absolutely terrified of the guy behind him.
there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you,
Not from El Salvador.
he's a citizen of El Salvador. So,
He's not a citizen of El Salvador.
very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point.
That's a lie.
As two immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13.
Also a lie.
When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any foreign immigration relief in the United States.
Lie.
So he had a deportation order that was valid,
Lie.
which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had
Also
to be
a lie.
returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then,
Murky.
by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him
Lie.
back here. That
Lie.
issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously,
Lie.
stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the president could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world. And I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan
But
to
the
ask for
Supreme
it?
Court's asking.
So I hope you're watching the three idiots on the couch because they were terrified to do anything. All three of them know better. All three of them know he's lying. He knows he's lying. How can is Trump even running the country, or is it Stephen Miller? I mean, is Trump just there for the golf and Stephen Miller is running the country? I mean, it's not JD Vance, we know that. It's definitely not Lil Marco. And, Pam Blondi is definitely not doing it. So, who's in charge of this shit show? Elon, when he's there, there's a whole host of other things. How, Navarro's running the tariff thing, doesn't believe in trade. And in order to get the pause on tariffs, they had to wait until he went to the bathroom and stick by Trump until he tweeted after Truth Social out the tariff pause. We're just not in a good situation. We're sending allies to their death. We're sending citizens not citizens, but residents without due process to foreign concentration camps. Anyway, I'm going to go now. Please like and subscribe, drop comments. There are a few things. Please correct me if I was wrong on anything that I said. happy to talk about it. And obviously, I don't know everything, so drop a comment. I just wanted to bring some, particularly the Afghan thing, that I saw it on the Bulwark and hadn't seen it really anywhere else, and so I thought I'd talk about it because I do remember what happened in 2021. Have a great Easter, everybody.